Hi there. Today's video is going to be for teachers, but before you decide to close the video, do know that it may be important for you to know some of these tips and tricks that I'm going to give teachers today. So stay online and see if you find anything you think is interesting. So for the teachers and teacher assistants and anybody who is going to be on the other side of the online system with kids, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks today that I learned from some of our teachers that have been in the online school industry for over 10 years. And they gave me some great pointers, and they said I could share this information with you. So I'm really excited to get started with showing you some tips and tricks that you can kind of use for the very beginning of the year. So I know for many of you Oregonians, which is where these videos are coming from, there is school starting on Tuesday next week, and these tips and tricks can be easily added into your day starting Tuesday. Really important stuff. Please watch this video before school starts. Just some quick bits of information for you to get started. All right, let's get going. Here are the 4 bits of information I'm going to share with you today around creating a tracking log to keep yourself organized. We're going to talk about all of the things that are important to have in that tracking log, and that tracking log needs to be designed before you start school on Tuesday. I do have an Excel spreadsheet that one of those teachers I just discussed, she gave me a tracking log, and I can send that Excel spreadsheet to you. If you post message me on Facebook, I can send that to you, and then you can use it as a template to create your own. We're going to be talking about getting to know your students. That is going to be so important, getting to know those kiddos. If you want to start the year off with good behaviors, you've got to build relationships. That's going to be really important. Getting to know your parents, those are your kind of secondary teachers, right? You're the initial teacher. They're there to support you. You really need to get to know those parents and build relationships with them. That's going to be also really important in keeping your students on track, and then keeping track of their progress. I'm going to get into this in a little bit more detail on the next slide, but I wanted to start with teacher-student relationships are key. Students are not going to learn as well if they don't have a relationship with you. It is really tough to ask questions, get support, and listen to an instructor that you don't have a relationship with. So we need to build those relationships early. We need to learn about their strengths and their interests and their struggles early on so that we can catch them before they get behind, and we need to do that by checking in often. So as I mentioned before, we need to keep ourselves organized. We've got to start September off with a bang, right? It's got to start off good. So let's start off strong by thinking about these things for keeping ourselves organized. So when you are, I'm on the blue box on the left, when you are thinking about who your students are, think about what is their home situation. So who do they live with? Is there 2 parents in the home? Is it 1 parent? Who's going to work away from the home? Who's staying home and working? Who is a stay-at-home parent that their job is to take care of the children in the home? Who's in online schooling in that home? Do you have is your student have 3 other kids that are in online schooling? That gives you an idea of how much that parent who's staying home is working on online schooling versus like having a toddler in the home. Or teenagers in the home. Like, what's going on? What's that home situation? Are they living in an apartment that's really small? Are they living in a house that has a big yard and lots of property? Like, what's going on with their home situation? Get that information from the student or the parents, and write that information down so that you know what they're dealing with, what's going on with that home situation through COVID and everything they're dealing with. What does that student do with their free time? Those are questions to ask your student. Not only what do they do with their free time, but what are they interested in? What subjects do they love? Why do they love those subjects? Sometimes kids love a subject that they're not good at all. They just are interested in it. So find out what those things are. What's their struggle? What is their struggle in life? Do they have struggles with, I don't know, being a middle child? Do they have struggles with feeling ignored? Do they have struggles with, gosh, I'd really like to spend more time with the parent that's in my home, or I have a parent that's away from home, or my grandma is sick, or what's going on for them? What's their struggle? What's their struggle academically? Why do they struggle with that? How do they learn best? Are they someone who likes to see things, likes to hear things, needs to write things down? Can they not write things down because they aren't quite able to write or type yet? Figure out what those struggles are so that you can get ahead of those things, and you know when you teach that specific class that that's going to be, you've got your list of students that really struggle in that subject, so you can really support those kids in that area. Academic tracking. So you're going to want to track the work they've completed and then the non-completed work. Look for patterns in those things. You're not going to get as much information as you did in a brick and mortar school. You need to keep track of what's going on with those students. And, if you have a subject that is being taught very different than another subject, ask yourself, how is that different? Is one more visual than the other? Does one have more information than the other? Is one involve more YouTube videos and more like hands-on engagement than something else? Pay attention to those things so that you can kind of, again, get ahead of where they're going to struggle. Also, writing down those online behaviors. We have students that will do things like antagonize or try to draw attention to themselves through the chat. You'll see those types of behaviors. You'll see with our online system, sometimes kids have access to what's being written on the board online, and they will sometimes delete other kids' stuff and do those sorts of things. You want to be writing those down. You want to get an idea of if they're worsening, if it was just, it's happening on Monday mornings. Like, pay attention again to those online behaviors. The third one is the top right box, student-parent engagement. So you need to be calling home and you need to be talking to that student. I had a student last year who was having behavior problems. I was getting emails from staff weekly. And now the student's doing this, and now the student's doing that. The way we do our online system, we don't often see kids' faces. We pretty much never do. So that's tough for me because I'm used to brick and mortar like you guys probably are. And I just really feel like it's easier to see their little faces. And they need to see mine too. They need to know I'm a warm, welcoming person. So I might call home, but I might also schedule a video chat with them and say, hey, I just want to see your face. Like, who are you? What do you like to do? And engage them and be friendly with them. I will want to check in with the parents and get to know them and say, hey, this is what we're doing this week. We're starting the week off with this, and here are my, classroom rules, which I'm going to do another video for you guys on. But just setting up those standards with the parents, letting them know what's going on, build a relationship with them. When you're teaching your classes, especially this first week in school, build their personal interests into your lessons this week. It is super imperative that you make this very first week interesting. If you have writing assignments, or if you are going to have them put together a PowerPoint or an idea, allow them to do something that they're interested in. Make it fun. Do games, do activities with them that first week. Get them going, this online stuff is actually really fun. I might want to log on and see what's going to happen next. If you start that first week with, we're diving right into academics, you're going to lose them immediately. Kids are going to not log on, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have absolutely no authority whatsoever to get these kids online. Your main goal this week needs to be keeping them interested, engaging with them, and being a likable teacher. Building their personal interest into your conversation. If you know that you have several kids that are into a certain topic or book or game, Discuss those things. Say, I know so-and-so really likes this or really likes that. How does that tie into this? Just letting them know constantly that you know who they are and you're aware that they're in your room and you have interest in them. How are you going to do those check-ins? So checking in with students, as we know with brick and mortar schools, it's really important to not just check in when students are doing bad, but checking in when students are doing well. If there's any way you can spend a little less time teaching and a little more time checking in. I know a lot of our online teachers have like helper classes that they offer a couple days a week, sometimes every day, and kids can go and check in and do, get help with assignments. Those kids are not going to show up if they don't like you. They're not going to show up if you're not interesting. And there's nothing you can do about that. So, how are you going to do those check-ins with those students? Are you going to just check in on, the kids that don't show up to those helper classes? How are you going to thank them for being there, knowing that they are making a conscious effort to show up, that they don't have to? So thinking about all those things, and really all these things on here need to be on a checklist. You need to be able to have tabs on your Excel spreadsheet where you can type in what you did with them, how you engaged with them, the problems that you're having, patterns that you're seeing. And like I said, if you want access to kind of a template, an Excel spreadsheet, I can send that out to you guys and you can modify those to fit what you need. But this is really important to have this ready to go for the first week so that you can keep track of who these people are and what their needs are. Okay, so do's and don'ts. Do teach your students how to use the tools. I'm going to do a video on that as well. You can do games around how to use those tools. So maybe you have a list of things that you teach. So how to use the microphone, how to raise your hand, how to ask a question, how to get into small group settings, because there should be a way for you to move people into small groups. How to behave when you're in your small group setting, because as a teacher you can't be in every one of those rooms, so you'll want to do some expectations around there. I'll talk about that in a second, but so you have all these things that you teach, how to use all these tools, and then you do a game where you have them practice doing every single one of them, and they check off a checklist on all of the things that they did and were able to do successfully. And then those things that people weren't able to do, you can go over again. Do a game around how to teach those tools so that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Don't force attention on students. Some of our students are online because they have some type of anxiety or worry around, showing their face or their voice. Show students how to do a private chat with you. Show students how to chat with other students, to ask questions and who to ask questions to. Buddy people up. Some students just aren't used to being online. It's hard for me to do these videos and show my face. I hate the sound of my own voice. So it's hard for me to listen to my own videos. It's terrible, I know. But it is really hard to be online if you haven't done it before. So do not force attention on them and make them do a video, where you can see their face and see them talking. Don't force them to answer to the whole group until people are comfortable. So be really careful not to do that. If you think about those times where you've been in a training and somebody has forced you to talk because you're in the front of the room, you're not going to sit in the front of the room anymore. You're not going to raise your hand for fear of someone calling out on you. You try to make no eye contact with the trainer. Those sorts of things. Kids don't even have those tools yet, oftentimes. So, if we force those things, we could end up having them not want to get online. So be careful with that. Do teach class rules and expectations. This is just like a brick and mortar. Make sure that you try to think about all of the different things that the kids need to know rules for around, not using the private chat during lessons. making sure that they are not talking about things that are off topic, those sorts of things. Set up those rules and expectations. That should be a day one thing. Also, make an activity out of it again. Don't just sit and like name off all these rules. Do something fun around it. Spend a little extra time doing that, because again, you cannot force kids online. Don't publicly shame. You know, if you have several students doing something, it's okay to say, I've got several students doing this, I don't want you guys doing that. But calling someone out individually, again, is going to cause anxiety and worry, and you're going to shut kids down. So be really careful to not call students out, and just keep an open space for kids to ask questions and feel safe doing so. Do engagement. Engage. Do as many activities and fun things as you can. Front load your entire world around that, because you want kids to stay online. You want them to want to be there. I can't say it enough times. You cannot force them online. This is all you have to hang on, is being interesting, being fun, and being engaging and warm, and somebody they feel like they can come to. All right, that's a wrap on this one. I did discuss a few times in this video of some things that I'm going to do some smaller videos for, so be watching for those this week. I really want to make sure that you guys get all of these things ready to go for next week. I apologize for kind of being last minute, but I came up with this idea to do these videos about 2 weeks ago, and I'm doing the best I can in trying to get you guys these videos to help you get started. So I hope this was really helpful. Please like, comment, share, let other people know. I'm putting these on my YouTube channel so that they're shareable anywhere. And I hope that you guys get off to a good start with this information. All right, see ya.